Hi, welcome to Write More Light. I apologize for missing the last week like I previewed. I was very, very sick with poison sumac, and then today had some other logistical issues, but I'm really excited to be back. I want to um, mix things up a little bit. I had some thoughts about our format, and I want to save our free write for the end. Um, I always get a little uh, antsy when I see people joining during the free write, and then they're just looking at me being silent, joining writing. Um, and I also think that if we do that at the end, then maybe you can finish up the finish up the video and keep writing. So I'm gonna try that for a little while. Today we're gonna talk about my very, very favorite piece of writing advice, which was given from on high by Midwest Writing Center founder David R. Collins. And then I learned it, and many MWC members learned it at the 2019 David R. Collins Writers Conference keynote speech by Ben Miller. Ben Miller is the author of Riverbend Chronicle, The Junkification of a Boyhood Idol, and the Curious Glory of Urban Iowa. Fantastic autobiography. Davenport native and just amazing all around writer and man. Highly recommend it. But the thing that I got more than anything from his keynote address was, thankfully I took tons of notes. I am a note taker, but he gave lots of advice that he learned from going to the Midwest Writing Center as a kid, and also that he got directly from being a friend and associate of David R. Collins, who obviously is a legend in our eyes. But my very favorite piece of advice is one that actually entirely changed the way I write, which is do one thing every day to further your writing. And it seems really simple, but I think that's the magic of it, right? You go to all these author events, and someone without fail will ask, "What's your writing process?" And all of these super famous authors always say, "Oh, I wake up at 5 a.m. and write for 2 hours before I even have coffee." And that seems like a lie to me. That seems impossible. First of all, I don't wake up without coffee, but then, I'm not a morning person. I wake up because I have to wake up. And every once in a while you'll see a writer who says like 9 p.m. they shut down all electronics and they hide in their room and they write for 2 hours or whatever. And then the occasional parent, which I've done this, will write during nap time, which is awesome. It's a great motivator because then you're sitting there like, well, I have only this time. Um, but that's a lot of pressure. We can't all just add 2 hours to our morning or 2 hours to our day to write, and then we feel like we're failing. We feel like we're not real writers because we're not spending an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours working on our project every day. So this piece of advice was revelatory for me, and I think beyond being simple, it's it's revolutionary because I don't have to sit down for 2 hours or whatever and put the pen to paper in order to make progress with my writing. Um, this can absolutely mean, while I'm walking to work, and in this reality, I walk to work rather than live in quarantine. While I'm walking the dog or while I'm fixing dinner, I'm thinking about my project. I'm wondering, what is this character's motivation? They made this decision. This is an important plot point, but why? And that helps develop your story as long as you're putting intention behind this practice. You're making progress, and that counts. That really does count. For generally, I write nonfiction. I write what I call lyric essays. So something that can count for that is, figuring out, making a list of what kind of research I need to do, or you know, doing some thinking on like, why do I want to write about this topic? Or, for poets, I had an assignment once in college where we wrote down, I think, 8 different categories of things, and one of them was like concrete descriptions of a sense, right? Um, so just taking those notes counts as productivity, and that's low pressure, but it's also really is productivity. So I one of the things that I wrote as my concrete description was the sound of scratching, which I'm not going to do now because I have an allergic reaction, and that would be bad. But that's a weird sound that you don't really pay attention to, but just that little flake. And maybe later that's useful. Maybe later that's a metaphor, and that takes away, I think, a lot of the pressure of productivity, but it also really does forward your progress. Um, this is probably always going to be my very favorite piece of writing advice. Just do one thing every day. Um, I think that there are definitely ideas beyond what I'm able to come up with right now, but that's for you. That's for your project. That's for you to develop. If what you need to work on is a title, work on a title. Do your thinking. Do it while check the mail. Do it while you make dinner. Um, don't don't let this pressure slow you down, because it can be anything, and sometimes we're too busy, and sometimes we have too much pressure internalized about this project, and it doesn't have to be that way. Um, we are creative people, and there's this terrible pressure, mostly from ourselves, I think, but also from outside, that if you're not creating, you are not a creator, and that's paralyzing. So that's my assignment for you now. Um, what is one thing you can do right now to further your story or your piece? Um, you know, Something that I don't give enough time and attention to when I write fiction is character development. Um, but that's absolutely something that you can do without having to, build out a whole um, character sheet. And same with all the various elements of fiction, right? Plot and setting, and physical setting, and also time. Uh, you can do this without having to sit down and write 500 words, and that makes all the difference, I think, both with your motivation to keep going, because you feel like you're making this progress, and you are. Um, and that makes it easier to keep going. So what are some other elements of fiction, right? We've got character and setting and plot, um, scenes. There are plenty of things we can do with those just while we go about our day. With poetry, which is not my forte, um, I think a lot of the magic there is with the language. That seems really obvious. So a lot of the progress you can make on your own work can be with reading poetry, and a lot of it can be with um, something that I really like to do, which is super nerdy, is with definitions, right? A close read, as we fancy academics say, of definitions can really alter your understanding of a word, and maybe that is all the difference to the piece you're working on, or the piece that you want to work on. Um, one of my favorite methods of making progress when I feel stuck, which I brought up in the writer's block topic, and I'll bring it up forever, is changing the format, the physical format of what you're working on. Um, and that can work just as an exercise for generative purposes. But just because it's an exercise doesn't mean it's not progress. Doesn't mean it's not furthering this project that you're working on. So if what you think you're working on is a very traditional poem, maybe reformat it. Maybe write it out as a list. Maybe write it out as a letter, and that counts. It changes the way you're thinking about the piece, and there you are. You're making that progress without having to give this deep emotional commitment to spending that hour or whatever writing. For those just joining us, we're talking about doing one thing every day to further your writing, and that is something that I got from Ben Miller, who got it from our founder, David R. Collins. And the reason that I think this is so exciting and revolutionary and revelatory is because it doesn't have to be spending 2 hours in front of your computer or in your notebook writing. I personally felt so freed by this piece of advice that it has legitimately increased my productivity. Every day I can do something. The examples that I was giving is, like while I'm making dinner or walking the dog. I don't have a dog, but I like the idea of walking a dog and working on writing in my head. Anything that you do as a creative can and will inform your writing. And that's what's so special about being an artist. But it's also, a great tool, a great weapon against the pressure of productivity, because you don't have to be producing those 500 words to be furthering your art. I think there's a lot to be said about research, not in the traditional sense, but in the sense of just learning, not even necessarily about your craft, but in general, that can absolutely inform whatever the project is that you're working on. I talk a lot about prose because that's my comfort zone, but I read a ton of poetry, and I think that consuming the art that you love will absolutely inform your productivity, but also expand your understanding. So if you're writing a mystery, it's okay to watch a crime show, as long as you do it with some intention, not just binging Law and Order for 6 hours and calling it good, but watching and saying, okay, what is effective about this, and what can I steal, or what isn't? What's cliche? What do they do over and over again that's annoying? So much of art is theft, and that's okay. It's not something we should be ashamed of, and it's not something that we should be bothered by. It's how we get better. It's not necessary. It's in the same vein of try again, fail better, but try again, steal better. See what they did and tweak it. All of this counts. Every moment we spend thinking about our art counts as working on it, and that's really special. So I hope that this is useful to you guys. I know I've been basically rambling on just one thought for 14 minutes now, but it is the best writing advice I've ever been given. It's the best creative advice I've ever been given, and it is so liberating to realize that I'm not failing at being an artist because I'm not spending the first 2 hours of the day locked in a room with a coffee pot and a typewriter. You don't have to do that to be productive, and you don't have to do that to be valid. You just need to find the one thing every day that you can do to further your art. I want to give massive undying gratitude to Ben Miller for giving that to me, and of course to David R. Collins for giving it to him, and to giving me the Midwest Writing Center in general. But I hope that it's as revelatory for y'all as it is for me. Um, Now then, I didn't promise this would be a short one, but it will be a short one today. I'd like to move on to our free write, which we're going to do at the end now, so that when the video ends, you can keep writing. With in mind that the one thing you do every day to further your writing doesn't have to be the physical act of writing. I would like today's free write to be on play. Whatever that means to you. I will be honest, I have this Mark Twain mug here, and I was thinking about it as I was prepping mentally for this video, but I didn't want it to be a super serious writing prompt because I want it to be in the vein of anything can be productive, right? And the quote, this is one of those Unemployed Philosopher Guild quote mugs. The quote is, "Work consists of whatever a body is obliged to do. Play consists of whatever a body is not obliged to do." So if the full quote is helpful to you, rock and roll. If the full quote is, more is harder to work with for you, then just play is good. I'm gonna set that timer of mine for 5 minutes, and we're gonna write together. Thanks for coming. I hope that this is gonna help you write more light into your life. I am someone who feels a lot of pressure when told to free write, so a lot of the time it turns into a journal for me. That's fine. That's valid and still worth your time. It gets the juices flowing. For anyone just joining us, we're doing a free write on the concept of play. Um, it's going to be probably 2 more minutes left of our free write, and no pressure. My free writes always turn into journals. That was not 2 minutes. It was much less than that. As always, I hope that y'all will give us some comments, give us some questions, messages, whatever. Let us know what you want from us. You know, we're here as a community resource. We want to help you write more light into your life. We are motivated by bringing appreciation and love for the written word into our community. So, what resources do you need? What resources do you want? What resources do you love? Let us know. And of course, as always, write more light into your life.